All right, breaking news just coming into the newsroom. Our team on the ground in Ukraine have confirmed multiple government agencies have been hit with cyber attacks. The websites for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs right now in Parliament and Ukrainian Security Service all down. We can't confirm if Russia were behind the attacks or is behind the attacks, but we will bring you an update as soon as the very latest. But again, a cyber attack confirmed there with the Ukrainian government and their sites. I want to bring in and talk about right now this. Ukraine now telling its citizens to leave Russia if they're there immediately. This as a state of emergency has been declared in the country. And new satellite imaging showing Russian field hospitals appearing just outside Ukraine borders, fueling concerns that the Russian president is planning for possible injuries or casualties to his troops. For more on that, we'll bring in Newsmax correspondent Sarah Williamson live in Kiev with the latest there. Sarah.
That's right, Sean. You stole the words right out of my mouth. It certainly is looking like a possible cyber attack has hit the Ukrainian government. Multiple government websites were down for about an hour today, but they have been restored just moments ago. The European Union setting up a cyber rapid response team to help Ukraine fight off the cyber attacks from Russia. Now, this comes as the Ukraine government declares a nationwide state of emergency with special restrictions ordered to keep the country calm and protect its economy. Now, conscription of Ukrainian military reservists also begins today, as well as Parliament voting to allow to approve in the first reading a draft law which gives permission to Ukrainians to carry firearms and act in self-defense. Now, these announcements come as President Putin said that Russia would be recognizing the entire Donbas region as independent. Now, this includes the Ukrainian government-controlled areas of Luhansk and Donetsk, which make up 70% of the entire area. Now, this announcement raises huge concerns for a Russian invasion into the government-controlled Ukrainian territory, that it could actually be happening very soon. There was shelling that happened in these areas as well, and they just continue to happen throughout these government-controlled areas over in the east of the country. And the Ukrainian residents in these areas are evacuating these areas amid fears of injuries or death. Last night, we did see another Ukrainian soldier killed over there, and 6 others were injured in these regions. Now, although most people are focusing on the east of the country, up on the border of Belarus, satellite images show new deployment of more than 100 military vehicles and dozens of troop tents, which reportedly could be used as a field hospital right near the Ukrainian border. So when you add all this together, Sean, it really does look like the Russians have set up an attack that really could be just striking Ukraine from all angles. It really is concerning for people in this country at the moment, but yet the Ukrainian government are only starting to now raise the alarm that this might be getting very, very, very serious.
If they're already warning Ukrainians in Russia to go ahead and leave Russia immediately, and the satellite imagery just showed is quite alarming there. Sarah Williamson joining us live in Kiev. Sarah, thank you. As we just mentioned, and Sarah did as well, that breaking news from our Newsmax newsroom confirming a cyber attack in Ukraine, including the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Parliament, and the Ukrainian Security Service, and now they're calling it a mass cyber attack. This as U.S. Director of Homeland Security announcing that the U.S. has a responsibility to be prepared for potential cyber attacks here. We'll bring our expert in here, the founder and CEO of Reach Out Technology, Rick Jordan, a cybersecurity expert. Rick, good to see you. Thanks so much for coming on here. So we hear about these cyber attacks. Again, kind of elaborate on what that really means and how detrimental that is to a country in Europe.
Sure. These are denial of service attacks. What these are is a flood of traffic against servers, so they're too busy dealing with this massive amount of traffic coming in, so they can't do their normal job. You know, you mentioned already the Department of Foreign Affairs, or the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, cabinet ministers, and then their parliaments. Last week, it was the Ministry of Defense in the Ukraine. These, in my opinion, seem to be just distraction techniques that can move perspective away from what's going on the front lines for a possible Russian invasion at this point. And that's what I feel the U.S. is having to deal with now, too, is because any cyber attack at this point, these things were resolved in an hour, right? That's not a lot of time.
Yeah, and talk to me about that. For viewers that may be watching right now and they hear cyber attack, perhaps that goes over their heads. But if you could break that down, I mean, how serious is a cyber attack in modern day? How could that affect everyday Americans' lives?
Sure, we saw it with the Colonial Pipeline last year, one of the biggest and best examples, and that was critical infrastructure. That was done with ransomware. That wasn't this type of attack that the Ukraine is experiencing right now. The type that the Ukraine is experiencing is a little less in severity because it's something that can typically be recovered from quickly versus a ransomware attack like the Colonial Pipeline that literally locks down all the systems, all the files, and it prevented the flow of natural resources, which then skyrocketed gas prices in portions of the United States. But if you look back at the Ukraine in 2015 and 2016, similar attacks were carried out that crippled their power grid for a short period of time as well. So critical infrastructure is really the thing we have to look at. Government agencies, okay, fine. It's a distraction technique that the Russians could be using to pull attention away from what's going on the ground on front lines. But once critical infrastructure starts to get hit, that's where the general public really starts to feel it.
In your expertise, is there any cause for concern here in the homeland for potential cyber attacks against American soil?
There always is. We saw tons of it last year with the Biden administration at the summit with Vladimir Putin last June. He said, hey, critical infrastructure is off limits. Right. I personally don't understand why anything would even be on limits. So just, keep 3 days worth of food in your house, in case something like that can happen again. It's something that we will recover within a couple of days from an attack of that nature, but it's not anything that you would need to worry about necessarily with funds being removed from your bank account, that kind of stuff.
All right, Rick Jordan joining us live with his expertise on that, responding to that breaking news. Rick, thanks so much. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
You got it. And we're